DC in the United States. I am part of a group called the Lebanese Diaspora for Action. I am working, or LDA is collaborating on this event with a group based out of London, which you all are hopefully familiar with, Impact Lebanon. And we are both part of a global network called مغتربين مش تبعين. And it's a network of different diaspora groups all over the world who are trying to work together and find ways to better support Lebanon and the people in it. So just brief background on each of Impact and LDA. Impact Lebanon is an initiative hub aimed at promoting active citizenship through collaboration between the diaspora and local entities to drive incremental change in Lebanon. And in short, we provide a platform for different people and different ideas to be able to be implemented. LDA, similarly, it's a group of Lebanese living around the Washington, DC area who came together to also work on mobilizing the Lebanese in their community to bring about lasting and positive change in Lebanon. And today, for this event, we're very excited to bring you into a conversation that we, these two groups, and مغتربين مش تبعين, has been having for a while. And it's a conversation that I know is on everybody's mind at the moment. How can the Lebanese community, both in Lebanon and abroad, what can we do? How can we work together in order to support Lebanon? And the reasoning behind this is when these different groups started kind of rising and popping up in different cities, we recognized first how huge the need and the challenges are in Lebanon, but we also saw the opportunities for a lot of people in Lebanon and abroad who are doing really amazing work, who are day to day coming up with new ideas and launching new initiatives. And we wanted to figure out if there's a better way for us to be able to support them. But before we kind of started, jumped into the planning piece of it, we wanted to make sure that we are not missing out on some of the lessons and some of the work that's already been done, because we know that there are organizations and people who have been engaging the diaspora and have been doing this type of work for years and years. And we thought a starting point for us needs to be listening to those people and hearing a bit more from people who have done this work. And this is what brought us to this first event. Where we wanted to highlight a few 4 key organizations in Lebanon who have done kind of outreach and fundraising with the diaspora, hear from them, and through that start a conversation with a broader group about how can we continue working together to do this type of work better. Okay, so one final point on the background. We are hoping that this is going to be the first of a series of events. They might look similar to what we're doing right now. They might look different, and that's part of the conversation we're going to be having. Before we jump into the actual speakers and their presentations, just a few ground rules, nothing too scary. As you know, when you first joined, you were muted. We ask you to stay on mute throughout the presentation, unless we call upon you or there's an open floor for people to contribute. At that point, please unmute and go ahead. We have really tried to identify all the different issues, technological, electricity, internet, God knows what, that might pop up during this event, and to mitigate them. But it is likely that some things are going to happen that are unexpected. If you face any issues, please be patient, send us a message on the Zoom chat, and then either Miriam or I will try to respond as soon as possible. And the final point is, as you listen to these presentations, if you have any questions or there are any comments that you'd like to make, please drop them into the chat box so that we can go back to them during the Q&A section. Very briefly, I'm just going to outline the main parts of our event today, just so you know what is coming. We're going to have about 30 minutes of presentations where we're going to go to each of our 4 panelists and hear from them for about 7 minutes. After those are done, we are going to move into a question and answers or kind of like open discussion for another 25 minutes or so. And then finally, in our last 30 minutes, we hope to engage you in an interactive brainstorming exercise using an online page or wall that we're going to share at that point. So we really look forward to all of these pieces and hope you can join us for all of them. Okay, I think it's 12:07. We've got a good number of people, so I am very excited to move to the first piece of this webinar, which is to hear from the 4 incredible organizations we have with us. And to start us off, we are going to go to Nisreen Tannous. Nisreen has been working with the Children's Cancer Center of Lebanon for the past 13 years or more. She is their fundraising manager and is part of the team that drives their outreach and fundraising efforts all over the world. So she is going to be telling us a lot more about TCCL's experience, and we're very excited about that. So Nisreen, I'm going to give you the floor, and Miriam is going to give you control of the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rindala. So good evening, everyone. And thank you for your time and for allocating this and arranging for this special webinar. And thanks for everybody who's attending. I'm not sure if I have the control over the screen now. Not yet, apparently. Okay.
Miriam?
I'm not sure if it's working yet.
Do you have it or not? It's can you try now? Yes, stop.
All right. So it's my honor to be representing the Children's Cancer Center of Lebanon in this special webinar and to speak about our experience on how we were able to engage the Lebanese diaspora over the past years. Children's Cancer Center of Lebanon, in an outline to our presentation tonight, my presentation will be in 4 sections. So starting with a brief, the CCCL is a non-governmental organization who has the affiliation with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, and works in special coordination with the American University of Beirut Medical Center. To note that probably not all of you know, but the St. Jude has been established by Danny Thomas. The founder is Danny Thomas, who is of Lebanese origins and is actually a great example of the successful diaspora since the 20th century. The Children's Cancer Center has become a regional center pioneered in the treatment of children with cancer with an average cure rate of 80%. We operate with an annual budget reaching around $15 million. We treat around 40% of the patients, children with cancer in Lebanon. On average, every year we have around 300 patients taking a treatment. We admit around 120 cases every year, and we have the average cost is around $55,000 to treat one child, because as well the duration of treatment reaches up to 3 years. Our mission is to provide the access to the treatment without any form of discrimination and totally for free. We also provide the psychosocial support to the patient and the parents and the family. We also work hard to try to educate and to increase the awareness and the understanding about the disease in the community. Our mission is, our vision actually is to try and treat all children in Lebanon and the region without any form of discrimination. Talking more about how we started the outreach efforts in 2005. As you know, we actually rely totally on fundraising and donations. So we have a lot of fundraising programs locally in Lebanon. But in 2005, we started our efforts and outreach, specifically in the Gulf, in Kuwait. We had our first gala dinner. And in 2014, we established the CCCL UK, a charity in London. So we started in Europe in 2014. We try always to choose the countries where there is a big diaspora who has solid links with Lebanon, which could be easier for us to mobilize them. And it's always a key to have major people, credible people who can help us and open doors for us, and also would give us this credible umbrella in the new communities that we are targeting. We did events, mostly gala dinners in Kuwait, in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, and in London. We also try to engage the diaspora through campaigns, mass campaigns. An example on that is the Golden Ribbon Chain, which I will kindly ask Rindala to send you some links about the campaign, about this campaign, so you'd know more about it. However, it's also important to highlight that our annual funds, you have 25% of them coming from the outreach efforts. So the majority of our funds used to come from what we do in Lebanon and the fundraising programs that we do in Lebanon. Having this said, and with the deteriorating economic situation since 2019, we launched what is called the Rescue Fund or the Rescue Plan. Unfortunately, I'm not able to move the screen anymore. So the rescue plan was for us because we reached at a point in 2019 with a deficit of $2.5 million, and with our calculations it showed that in 2020 the deficit could reach $10 million. So we launched the rescue fund with Marcel Ghanem in a special episode, and in parallel the rescue plan was to focus more on the outreach countries and to try to do more of our ongoing fundraising programs that we usually do in Lebanon, to do them in the outreach countries. However, we've started upon that early 2020, basically in Dubai and in London. But with the COVID-19 pandemic, our plans were put on hold, and we shifted more to digital campaigns. So now our focus is on digital campaigns meanwhile. What we did in the past years from outreach activities was basically gala dinners, concerts, direct meetings with the diaspora and potential supporters. We had third-party initiatives and crowdfunding as well, and we also did mailing campaigns. These basically what worked for us. What didn't work was basically the silent auctions and the exhibitions. Definitely, this experience allowed us to learn a lot of things. What we learned was basically, please, I need the second slide. I cannot move it. Okay, so the other one, please. Lessons is to keep, one of the key lessons is to keep a major and good relationship with our donors, seek referrals with them, do thorough research about the diaspora that we are targeting, and definitely develop emotional stories about our mission to present it to our supporters. It's also essential to understand the interests of the diaspora in each country because they are not the same. So what we can do in one place cannot be done probably and cannot be successful in the other. And planning ahead of time is a key. The second slide, please. The needs, having the board involved is definitely a key, and the presence of the team on the ground to prepare ahead of time. Transparency is essential because whatever the donor asks for, we have to provide them. We also, it's important to have different donation means and flexible donation means. We have to prepare ahead of time, as I said, and continuously update our donors about the status. And it's good also as well to involve barter sponsors from the diaspora who could help us in some events to decrease our expenses and thus maintain a low-cost ratio at our events. Other slide, with respect to ideas, other than the gala dinners and concerts, it's good as well to do fundraising with the third-party initiatives and to engage the Lebanese embassy as well. This is basically in short. So thank you so much. And I will ask Rindala to share with you the links for our website and CCL UK website, to invite you to follow us on our social media, CCC Lebanon. And Rindala, you will take care of sending all the links now. Okay, yes, thank you.
Drop them in the chat and we will definitely send them in a follow-up email. But I need to say this, you were right on time for 7 minutes. That was very impressive.
Despite the hassle with the changing the slides and the hiccups, exactly. It's okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you, Nisreen. We are now going to move to Walid Malouf. So Walid has been with the Lebanese Food Bank since 2014. He is currently the board secretary and chair of fundraising and expansion. He is also the president of Blue Ocean Capital, working in urban development, destination creation, and hospitality. So Walid, you can take it from here.
Walid, you should have the control for the screen, but if not, just let me know and I'll do it. You're on mute, by the way.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, the control. It's a bit tricky, this control thing. I don't see the commands for the control, I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Let me try once again.
Escape.
See, technical difficulties, they're always with us.
Can you try now?
No.
Okay, I'll do it. No problem. Yeah.
All right, done. Okay, so hello everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about the LFD. Basically, we've been active since 2012, and really our mission is to fight for a hunger-free Lebanon with basically the food that is going to waste. And for us, hunger is an issue of dignity, so we really want dignity to be back into the discourse. It was established, the NGO is a charitable organization established in 2012. So we've been at it for, but really active as of 13 and early 14 really, but it was registered in 2012 with clear goals, missions and vision that you can see on the screen. The values are those of transparency and also away from confessional, political, and really centered around human dignity. And around Lebanon. Action areas before the world collapsed was a number of them. We had a catering waste program, we had a MUNE program or food box program, an education program where we were active with children, telling them about the importance of not wasting food. Cooking program where people volunteered to cook for the needy, and then coalition in terms of lobbying. We did that in collaboration with a number of NGOs trying to change laws related to waste. Sorry. Sorry, so the way the business model, going quickly around it, is really we are a link between people or organizations wasting food and the NGO network all over the country. So we've grown dramatically from the early days of 40 to 70 NGOs that we support to now well over 100 NGOs that basically are the end beneficiaries. And through them, we reach the people and the families who are in need. And currently started covering 6 out of the 26 regions in the country to now all of the regions in Lebanon. So talking now about the core of the subject, partnering with the diaspora, this is still, I mean, we're talking as if we're experts, we're learning, we're learning, we've started connecting with the diaspora a couple of years, 2-3 years ago. And what you see here are just a summary of a few points, but we're still learning. It's not static at all. What we felt is important was really to be really clear when we connect with the diaspora about our mission, and how, why are we doing what we're doing, and the set of values. So I would encourage everyone to do the same. It's very important that people understand what you do. And there's kind of a lot of confusion with similar initiatives so it's important to be clear. Number 2 is really sanctify transparency, which means make it sacred, make it super important. And that seems obvious, but it's not only obvious. It's not always obvious. You need to really make it as transparent as possible. Number 3 for us was, making enough efforts communicating and reporting, which is a bit counterintuitive when you're taken by day-to-day work on the ground. You find that this is administrative work, but the more you do, the better. So if you feel you're over-communicating, that's not a problem. The problem is under-communicating. Number 4, which served us pretty well, and Maya can talk about this because we've just had an unbelievable experience with Beit Baraka, is building bridges, collaborating, and working in partnerships. We cannot do this alone, and we couldn't do anything we're doing alone. So 3 years ago, we started connecting with NGOs based in London, based in Paris, based and lately based in New York with our largest collaboration with SEAL. But basically, it's about building bridges, collaborating, and working in partnerships. Unless you are established as an NGO in the countries where the diaspora is effectively present, and even if you are established, you need to collaborate. So you really need to focus on that aspect. Establish win-win-win relationships. It's very important that all the people involved in a relationship find their interests and their objectives met. Pace yourself, which means, we're sometimes eager to move really fast, but this work, we find it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So you need to ensure that you're going at the right pace so you can reach your objectives. Finally, invest in implementing, monitoring and evaluation processes. Basically, if you cannot measure what you're doing, you're not managing it. And we feel that this is really important with donors and with everyone. Go beyond fundraising. I think this discussion is about fundraising, but there is so much more to tap into when you talk about the diaspora. Money is one aspect, but public relation, expertise, connections, it goes far beyond money in my opinion. Okay. Okay, it's not moving now, or is it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Oh man, it's either too fast or okay. So finally, one thought on how could the diaspora effectively mobilize. So I talked about the NGOs, but let's talk about how the diaspora can effectively mobilize. But basically, the mere fact of this webinar happening is basically, showing that this is happening already, but it needs to happen more structurally. What I mean is we need to avoid duplication, and to optimize impact, the diaspora need to collaborate, partner, engage throughout the world, and basically ensure that initiatives are moving in a concerted effort. So my point is to start collaborating regionally. So if you're in the US, collaborating with various states, etc., but then nationally and then internationally. So this is for me easier said than done, but I think it has the most impact when it comes to the thought on the diaspora end. And finally, I'd like to end with a thought that's very important for me, because right now there's fatigue, like Nisreen said, about dinners, etc. But the idea that, if every one of us around the world just donates $1, it doesn't sound like a lot, but $1 every month helps us, go through this very, very difficult and dire period. So I just wanted to leave you with that thought. Thank you very much, and looking forward for the questions.
Thank you, Walid, and sorry again about the technical issues with the presentation. Also very impressive on timing. You guys are making me look bad because I am not sticking to the time. Awesome. We are going to move to Maya Brashima from Beit Baraka. So Maya is the founder of Beit Baraka, and she is a member of the executive committee of the Lebanese Heritage Protection within the Ministry of Culture. Maya, you're unmuted. Amazing. So please go ahead.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you please to go to the last slide. I just did this whole presentation in case somebody is asking us to share the presentation. So basically, Beit Baraka offers 3 services that have to do with the dignity of the human being, because we started out with retirees who unfortunately had a very hard time living their retirement phase, which is absolutely terrible because there are no retirement pensions. But then we were surprised after 9 months of existence. Beit Baraka is still very young. So we started with just 328 families. Until October 17th, we ended up with 1,012. And the database keeps growing because we keep receiving phone calls from families and people that we're trying to help every now and then, because it all depends on the fundraising. The more money we have, the more we're able to help families. So at the end of the day, we gathered a database of 182,000 Lebanese individuals. And we are working on various levels because we need to not just help these people have food, but also we need to make sure that these people, when they receive this food, they know that they're receiving it free of charge. And this is not a habit in Lebanon, because usually in Lebanon, when a family receives a box of food, this box usually is in return for votes. So we're making it our priority today to explain to the Lebanese people of a certain category that their voice should not be sold in return for food. Because as you know, in a couple of years, you have the elections coming, and it is very important that the diaspora is involved 100%, because their votes are the only way Lebanon is going to be back on its feet again. So I think everyone should start doing their share in order to prepare and have people ready to understand that you cannot bargain with people's need anymore. And getting people impoverished is probably what got us here, all of us, all these charities helping people eat. But we don't only provide the services of food, we also provide services that have to do with decent livelihood. So we pay rent, electricity, and water to 93 families. We pay 128 electricity bills. We have restored until now 55 homes. We still have 128 to go. And we have another service, which is the medical service. We have 600 patients who have undergone severe treatments with us, from cancer to heart, open heart surgeries. We cover everything. Now, to be able to offer people a wider scope of services, we decided to start planting, because just giving food, regular food, is not helping a lot. We decided to go into food with a step more, which is sustainable agriculture. So now we're planting on 500,000 square meters. We're already harvesting, actually. We started in February. So we produce a lot of food. We are transforming this food in a way to meet the needs of more and more families. Now, when it comes to the donations part, we did various webinars and various events, always online, because we don't do any gala dinners or any other types of events. We only work online, and we usually prefer that people come to us with ideas of how they can help us, instead of us knocking at their door. So we work, everything we do it online so that people can see. So we've done an amazing webinar with SEAL USA, and it was a kind of help me help you, because SEAL has SEAL USA. They have this amazing network of farmers, of local farmers in Lebanon, that they're helping through a cooperative. And the network they've created is absolutely extraordinary. So by helping us, we were able to help the farmers as well, because SEAL got everyone on board the webinar. They did an absolutely astonishing job. I mean, they got the entire Lebanese diaspora of San Francisco, New York, LA. I mean, everybody was there, and the donations were fabulous. And the webinar was 1 hour. The first 45 minutes were the presentations and the Q&A. And then we just had the last 15 minutes, during which $1 million were donated. It was absolutely fantastic. So, but then we realized that we cannot just keep asking people for money, because at the end of the day, this is how much money there is to donate. So we have to create new ways for people to donate. So we are launching now another system, which is donate the product. So we are partnering with a web developer NGO as well. And this NGO has a website on which people can click to buy items. So we have decided that from now on, people will be able as well to go on this website and click to buy, for example, everything we need for a new land that we are planting. And so, for example, you can buy a tree, or you can buy a chicken, or you can buy a cow, or you can buy 2 meters of water irrigation. So, and this way, people will interact with us and will understand that they are helping us on the long run. They're not just helping us once. So, Rindala, can you go back one slide, please? So I think the most important thing today for the diaspora is to identify the main countries where the diaspora is most active, because there are many Lebanese in many countries that are not very active and not really interested anymore because they have lost the connection with Lebanon. So we need to identify where these active Lebanese are. We need to identify as well the age group of the diaspora that's willing to help Lebanon and that is most active, and how do they pay. And we have to identify also the types of fundraising activities among the diaspora. For example, if in the USA they like the galas, maybe in Europe they prefer things that have to do with exhibitions. In the UAE, it's been proven that they're very successful with influencers and bloggers. So I think today the need is for a platform that unites all this diaspora, but each country differently, because Lebanese living in the US will not respond to an event that would be more suitable for Lebanese living in the UAE. So I think this is the most important next step for us to work on with the diaspora. And of course, prepare them not only on helping us give people food or medicine, but also we have to help them by introducing them to a country that will be ready to receive their votes in a couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maya. Amazing. We are now ready to move to Yumna. We are also very excited to hear from Yumna Shamsham from LiveLove.org. She is the co-founder of LiveLove.org. She is also an artist and designer interested in methods such as storytelling and community building. She has worked on film creation, social media campaigns, and design and identities. So Yumna, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here. So to give you a little bit of background about LiveLove, we started in 2012, and we are quite different from the three organizations that we just heard of that are doing incredible work on the ground. We work more on the internet to build communities, to share, celebrate, and help support the beauty of Lebanon. And you have three verticals that we work with, which are the environment, culture, and people. But we originally started just to be able to change the perspective, the global perspective on Lebanon in 2012 by starting a hashtag on Instagram and asking people to share the image of Lebanon through the eyes of locals. And it was twofold of a goal for us, which was one, for locals, create hope, because when all the news around you are bad, how could you even envision a better future, or how would you want to be creative and have the energy to build solutions around you? And I am an expat, so I don't live in Lebanon. My co-founder lives in Lebanon. So from my point of view, as an expatriate and somebody living abroad, I couldn't describe to people where I came from when I said Lebanon. They couldn't, besides the bad news, they couldn't really see it. So with that, what happened is within 6 months, we already had 1 million likes on the photos that we shared. We had thousands of images a day. You probably know our hashtag, which is LiveLoveBeirut, and our Instagram accounts that today have 450,000 followers, including also a very popular Facebook page. And 50% of the people who follow us are actually the diaspora, so they are not in Lebanon. That's why most of the content we do is in English. And very quickly, we decided to move our focus from social media to social actions and to use this traction that we got of very engaged followers to try and move them to help make Lebanon better. And the way it started for us was by catalyzing what was happening on the ground. So young people would send a photo of a dirty beach, and then they would want to go and clean it. We would be able to mobilize 200 to 5,000 people per event based on one Instagram post. And the mechanism we created on our website called Live Love Volunteer, which then became a program of the United Nations Development Program in Lebanon. So we have monthly volunteering events where we mobilize our wide area of young volunteers to go and help local nonprofits. So they went, they rebuilt schools, they rebuilt houses, they did food drives, etc., with local initiatives and the private sector. We also have a big program around tourism that we built with SEAL in New York that is entirely built around taking people to go and visit their agricultural cooperatives. Unfortunately, due to COVID, this year we had to stop the tours because it's too risky But what last year it was our first year launching, and what we did is created tour packages around the food agricultural co-ops that SEAL has, and people would buy tickets, tourists and locals, to go and visit those cooperatives, eat their food, buy their produce, etc., etc. And we also have a program called Live, Love, Recycle, which actually was done in cooperation with the World Food Program. When we saw that nobody picked up recycled waste in Lebanon in 2015 to 2016 during the waste crisis, we decided to create an application where you would request to pick up. A driver would come to you on an e-bike. We created 436 jobs, pick up your sorted waste and take it to Arc-en-Ciel and to recycling centers. And we had a good experience that I want to talk about here with fundraising from the diaspora. So initially we had funds from the World Food Program to build our prototype, and then we decided to do a Kickstarter last year to raise funds from the diaspora, and we were able to raise about $85,000 in a month. And we rely on our social media mostly to connect with them. So everything comes from our Instagram, our Facebook posts, etc., etc. And also we're able to create customers from our social media and convert them into users. And that makes our programs sustainable. Into October, when the revolution started and the crisis, we have been approached by a very large number of very small initiatives that needed help buying food or getting essentials like diapers and resources, etc. And as I said, we don't do the work on the ground, but our big question was, how can we capitalize on what we built online and the communities that we built in all regions of Lebanon? Because we have now in Lebanon only 250 Live Love accounts that are regional accounts, like Live Love Tripoli, Live Love Bekaa, Live Love Bikfaya. Any village, you name it, has a Live Love account with its community of thousands and thousands of people that follow those accounts every single day, and they are led by young volunteers in those regions. So what we decided to do is to build an online donation platform that is called Live Love Help Lebanon. You can see it on our website. And the donation platform essentially takes funds monthly from the Lebanese diaspora, and we pick one initiative a week that we donate the funds to. So we put together a vetting process to choose which initiatives we work with. We decided to stick to the really small initiatives because this is where we identified a bigger need for visibility. They don't necessarily know how to create a brand or storytelling. And what we also do is give them visibility on our social media so that if people want to give more to them, they can. And we create videos about them, etc. And this is launching in August. The first initiative we're working with is the Lebanese School of the Blind and the Deaf, who are in urgent need of funds for their pension. So the people who live there, they need to buy food essentials. And we're going to be launching a video about them next week. And then we're working with another NGO in Bekaa, etc. And we already have a selection of all the nonprofits we want to work with till the end of the year. And we're trying to work with all regions equally, so it's not just centered around Beirut.
Thank you so much, Yumna, and all the speakers. You had a lot of really different points, but a lot of key themes came up that I just wanted to kind of go through very quickly to frame the conversation as we go. And then we've already received a number of great questions that we're going to go through in the next 20 minutes or so. So thank you once again for being both brief, but really, really informative. This was great to listen to. So a few key ideas that popped up. First is the idea of partnerships. So some of you talked about identifying partners, whether organizations or individuals in different countries abroad who can facilitate your entry or kind of your reach into those communities in the diaspora that you're targeting. Specifically, for example, Maya mentioned how they were able to identify an organization that shared their mission or their vision, and by doing so, they already had kind of a network of people who are interested and already engaged in this type of program or type of support. And then a very interesting idea that Yumna brought up was how Live Love is trying kind of to utilize their comparative advantage or the strength that they have, which is their online presence and their ability to reach a lot of people through online tools, but to use it to help other organizations who don't necessarily have that exposure or have that capacity. So the idea of partnerships was very important. Another thing was about kind of prioritizing who you're trying to reach in the diaspora and how to to design your approach based on that group. So whether it is prioritizing specific countries that have a lot of Lebanese in them or that you want to focus on, or even recognizing within specific age groups or geographic areas, what methods do they respond to, what is the best way to reach them. And then there were a few really good ideas about how do you kind of build trust and how do you reach out and keep kind of people interested and engaged. So it's very important that people understand what you're trying to do and kind of buy into the mission or the type of activities that you're proposing. Transparency and being able to show kind of the results that you're achieving and be very open and transparent about it is very important. And then finally, communication. So making sure that people know what's happening, that you're regularly engaging them, including by using social media in order to be able to do that with people abroad. And then a few ideas that I really loved that hopefully we can touch on a bit more in this event, but if not, I probably will follow up with people about them. How do we go beyond fundraising? What are other ways that the Lebanese abroad can support their community back home through networks, expertise, information sharing, and other ideas? And then we talked about how can we kind of grow that, how can we coordinate as groups outside? So how can the Lebanese diaspora outside coordinate within their country, within their region, and then internationally to decrease overlap and kind of identify areas for collaboration. And then there were a couple of specific ideas of kind of, can we build a platform of some sort? Is there something that we can create that will bring people together and help them kind of have these conversations on a regular basis? So I just wanted to kind of put those out there. Maybe they'll also spur some additional discussion in the Q&A. But now we're going to move to some of the questions that have been asked, and I'm going to go through them. And whoever from the speakers, we're going to do this informally as it happens. Whoever would like to speak on them, please just unmute and go ahead. So the first question that we had was on fundraising methods. So specifically, they heard that a dinner gala was mentioned as one idea. Since then, a number of other methods have been used. But maybe if each of you can identify kind of the one primary method that you found to be most effective with the diaspora specifically.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll answer that. Definitely the gala dinner remains as the most successful until now. So this is speaking again from our experience. So probably to others, they could find other means, but for us, the gala dinners has been so far the most successful. But having with the COVID and all the situation that's happening currently, definitely looking into other options is essential.
For the gala dinners, what do you mean just literally charging a premium for the ticket and then negotiating with the restaurant supplier, or is it auctions on top of that as well? So I mean, how, because I've heard you've raised like £1 million of these dinners.
It's a combination. It's not just the tickets, it's sponsorship, it's auction. So donation envelopes, even we have donation envelopes for everybody who's attending. So it's several sources, not just one thing. Okay. And direct donations as well that we can get from the meetings that we usually do before the gala dinner, because we do a lot of meetings as preparation for the event.
Oh, so a lot of preparations. It's not just a case of organizing in 2 weeks' time and job done. There's more to it than that.
No, it mostly takes around 2 months, a minimum of 2 months to prepare for that. Yes, because as I said, it's not just the gala; it's a lot of things happening along.
Can we get one more method at least before we move on? I'm gonna pick on Yumna. Maybe you can tell us just a bit more about kind of, you talked a lot about using social media, your online network. What does that process look like for getting people not just to engage with you online, but to donate? You're still muted. Give me a second. Okay,
There we
go
go.
ahead.
Sorry. So I think for us, what works is that if we post 5 to 8 times a day, or if we post every day, we only post about fundraising 2 times a week or 3. We try as a strategy, those posts don't engage as much as others. And for us to keep growing our audience, we make sure that the ratio of posting, asking for money versus posting beautiful, inspiring, culturally rich content about Lebanon and its region has to always be balanced. So that's one strategy. Don't spam people with too many posts. Don't ask them for money too much. We'd rather do it qualitatively by doing strong, powerful videos that we would share once a week or twice a month. And that has worked better for us, or very targeted newsletters. And we find that our newsletters are also very effective. We gathered a wide database of people who subscribe to our newsletters, and it's the people who have bought. We've been selling a Live Love Beirut bracelet. I don't know if you know it, but for years and years. And the database of people who have bought bracelets just because they thought they were cool years ago are the people who come back and donate. So we really focus on the returning donors. That has been a good strategy for us. And they usually bring more donors with them. Is there any, did that answer your question, or did you want more details?
No, that is perfect. And I like we were able to get in both in-person and online kind of methods that can be used, and we can follow up on some of these later. Thank you, Yumna.
Cool.
The second question was on kind of, if you want, the advantages of registering or having a formal presence in cities abroad versus trying to do this type of work remotely. So I want to say, Nisreen and Walid, one of you mentioned that you were registered as a charity in the UK. So kind of what does that actually give you, add to you, and maybe talk a bit about the tax exemption point, which was brought up.
Yes, actually, yes, we registered CCCL UK back in 2014. And the main reason behind that was actually to facilitate the tax deductible donations. So this is part to make it easier for the diaspora as well, and more encouraged to support.
Yeah. So we're not formally registered yet, but due to the problems of transferring money to Lebanon, recently we've had to open a bank account in Switzerland that has proven quite effective and quite handy. Because a lot of people are sending funds, and the banks, through compliance issues and other political issues, are finding it, we're finding it difficult to get that money. So they become pledges that are not basically cashed. Or so yeah, having a presence for the NGO nowadays abroad, I mean, is key in my opinion. So the least is the lowest level is having an account. That's not also easy, by the way, for a Lebanese NGO to hold an account in Europe or the States. But yeah, the ultimate is to have a presence. Now we can work around that by collaborating effectively, which we've done in Paris, which we've done in London, which we've done in New York more lately. With SEAL, and that works pretty well too. So, but yeah.
Thank you, Aidan. That's actually a really good kind of move into a couple of questions that came specifically on that, with the restrictions on moving money into the country. Kind of what has been your experience working around that? So you've already mentioned, for those of you who can, actually having a bank account or being registered in some of those cities facilitates the process. And then the other point is having partners over there who can kind of help do that fundraising and figure out how to best to move the money. But are there any other ideas or kind of lessons or experiences you've had with getting funds from abroad into Lebanon?
I'm going to add a point here, Indala.
Yeah, go ahead, Maya.
we got we opened a bank account in the United States for tax exemption, the 501c, and we opened an account in Luxembourg as well. But this did not change the doubts that people have, because at the end of the day, this money has to come back to Lebanon. So many people are asking us, once we send you the money, for example, to Luxembourg or to the United States, how are you getting this money to Lebanon? And I think what's important now is to show people that $100 in the past, our budget is of course very different than the other budgets. For example, the Children's Cancer Center is, I think their budget per child is half the budget for the entire year for us. These are two totally different types of work. But when you tell someone about $100 today in Lebanese, today $100 can feed an entire family of 2 adults and 2 children for an entire month. And it's not just food. We're talking also about hygiene products. So I think NGOs should start communicating about this. And this will help us a lot in giving back some assurance, whereby when the money is here, do we have a plan on how to get the money out? Yes. Which banks are we working on? Are we working with? And are these banks giving us facilities to get the money out? And once the money is out, how are we exchanging this money to Lebanese pounds in order to optimize every dollar given to us? So I think this is very important.
I agree, and I think this is a point we definitely would want to dig a bit deeper into it, because it's such an evolving situation where, you know, what has worked for one organization or one country might not work for others. But it's great for us to try to collect some of those lessons and experiences to share with others who are trying to do this too. There was one point that was a couple of points that really related to not just trust, but also outreach. How do you reach communities abroad, and how do you build trust with them so that they can support you? And we got a specific question about France. So if either you would like to speak specifically to the general trust building and relationship building component within the diaspora, or if you have specific examples for France, that would be helpful.
For France?
Either one, whichever you would like to speak to.
I'm going to speak for both, because the database of donors that we have is much younger than other charities. Medical charities usually have older donors who are a little bit financially more settled, so they are able to give bigger amounts. Food charities have a younger crowd, and this is why we have decided to cater to their needs. Younger people, especially in France and in Europe, they're more into arts and exhibitions and concerts. And this is why we've been having a lot of musical events in Europe, a lot of exhibitions. We've had even international designers who have given some stuff for a charity sale for Beit Baraka. The amounts of donations are smaller, but the volume is much bigger. So you have 2 very different types of donations in this case. You either decide to work on a platform of donors who are at least like 25,000 donors per week, but who give you smaller amounts, or you can target just 3 or 4 donors who will give you the exact same amount in a shorter period of time. Now, for the trust and for the outreach, everything happens through social media. All the people that donate to us can see the result immediately on social media, and on our website, we are publishing our numbers. So considering the amount of work that's being done, I think the numbers can reflect exactly what's happening. And every time there is a donation, when people log on to our Instagram account, they can see it. Because they donate to a cause, and the cause is materializing every day on Instagram. Every day there's a new post about a new project that we're doing, with the cost, with the breakdown, with everybody understand what's happening.
Awesome, thank you, Maya. Anybody else wants to add to the kind of trust or relationship building component?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk again about the points we mentioned in the presentation related to reporting, but also monitoring and evaluating actions. So yes, there is the part of publishing, but also numbers. Once you make an operation, or you complete an operation, a campaign, or any action, you know, ensuring that you put the mechanism for measuring the impact and ensuring that, you know, whether there were pitfalls, they were recognized. This also helps building trust. Putting in place and investing in processes and talking about it builds trust. Having the right auditors, you know, and publishing those audits, all of those build trust. And I think trust is really, really a very core issue in the relationship between the diaspora and Lebanon on many aspects, whether it's social, political representation, humanitarian action. You've got millions of people. I've been on a big trip throughout Latin America a few years ago, and it was very touching. But they need to reconnect with the country. They need to build their trust, and that trust have been abused so many times. So there are, you know, ways to show that you're meaning well and you're well intentioned and you're not, you know, abusing that. Yeah.
Thank you, Walid. I actually want to jump in quickly to a point that somebody brought up about corporate partners or corporate donors, because we spoke a bit about, let's say, how do you cater to a young audience or like one in different countries, but how do you try to move from individual donations to corporate partnerships and corporate donations? And maybe if we can start with you, Nasreen, because I know that that is part of the model, kind of partnerships with corporations is part of the work that you do.
It actually could take different forms with the corporates. If we are to take the gala dinners, for example, corporates are mostly, we seek them to get their sponsorship, and in return they get exposure during those events. So it is pure like a marketing exposure, and within their marketing approach, if I can put it in these terms. However, when we thought of enhancing more of our ongoing fundraising programs, it was mostly to build different type of relationship with the corporates. It could be more engaging their employees. It could be more engaging donations through their customers. So it depends on the type and nature of each corporation. And as we usually tailor our appeals, and we have a variety of fundraising programs, so it could take different forms and different approach. So it could be sometimes on the level of the company or on the level of employees. So it's in different ways.
And has anybody else had experience with kind of corporate partnerships or programs?
Yeah, sorry, this is...
Repeat, please? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Please?
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say something. It's Hani. I mean, there are sometimes corporates where on an annual basis, they would require NGOs or charity to register with them so they can receive some support. So the question also is, how do we make this effort a bit more, let's say, concentrated, to put some of the registered NGOs, especially the one registered abroad, kind of on the list of multinational corporates so they can receive donation, because I guess these are significantly larger than what can be raised individually. And at least from my firm, I've seen them effectively be able now to include regional, they're based in Dubai, the regional NGOs and supported regional NGOs. So this seemed to me as an interesting opportunity also to kind of boost a bit more the funds that can be raised from the region and the broader.
May I add a point on this one?
Go ahead.
When, for example, in the case of NGOs that distribute food items and medicine, we have corporate partnerships, for example, with companies like Unilever and Procter & Gamble, because we represent everything that an FMCG company needs in terms of CSR. So once we have a full program for their CSR project, then we can present to them this program and say, we are able to deliver on your CSR project for this year with X number of families. And this is where these FMCG companies have contracts with us, and they, instead of giving us money, they're giving us products. We have also a very big account with L'Oréal and mostly all of the big FMCGs. So I think this is another way also of dealing with them. It's being part of the CSR program, whether it's in cash or in goods delivered.
And maybe to follow up on that very quickly, Maya, there was also a question on kind of those in-kind support, kind of when you're asking somebody not to give money, but to provide other types of services. Maybe could you just speak a bit more about that? And then if any other speakers have experience with that type of engagement, please also go ahead.
So we went, for example, for each category, we went to visit the main suppliers in terms, for example, the medications or the food, the beverage, the hygiene products, the personal care products. But we also visited even the biggest contractors in Lebanon, because we rebuild homes. So we even asked them not to throw any of the material they use, for example, when they're building a tower or something. Everything that's left not used, we are ready to take them. And in return, there will be some interaction with them online so that people can know without falling into the advertising and promotional trap, but of course having very decent advertisements for them. And it started working this way, and gradually we started growing, and basically we spent almost zero on refurbishing these homes because we were able to get everything sponsored.
Yeah. I'd like to add something, Rindala, on the corporate side. We've been lobbying with a group of NGOs to change a law in Lebanon for a number of years. And funny enough, in the worst time in the history of this country, or one of the really worst moments, the law has passed, which is quite a miracle, which is basically changing the waste law, which means that FMCGs, when they import goods into Lebanon, if they don't sell them, they need to destroy those packaged goods to get back their VAT, which is ridiculous. All over the world, you donate this food or this you donate it to charity while it's still edible. So this law has passed now. We're very happy, very proud to have contributed, which means now that all food importers, wholesalers, they don't need to destroy this food to get their VAT back if people didn't buy them because they felt it's too close to the expiry date. So now they have an incentive to approach every single charity that deals with food. They have an incentive to approach them 2 months before, when they feel they're not going to sell, to donate instead of calling for the destruction and polluting the seas and the environment and the valleys of this country. So this is like a systemic change. This is changing the system. This is very deep. But now the whole NGO network needs to be ready. This law has passed recently, so it's not completely in effect yet, but it's soon, they need to create some forms in the various ministry, but it's soon going to start being enacted. So NGOs like Beit Baraka, like ourselves, like many NGOs, are going to start using this relationship with their FMCG, importers, to ensure that this food gets given and distributed and instead of thrown. This is, if you want, the ultimate collaboration between the corporates and the NGO network, ensuring that the laws don't end up destroying and throwing and ruining the environment where it's still completely edible. So that's a perfect example, I think.
Yeah, and that's a great point on how you can hit two kind of points at the same time, of like corporate partnerships and benefiting from them, while at the same time, contributing to less waste and maximizing the resources we already have. So I do want to move, because we're already past the Q&A time and at the 1 hour mark, but there was one final question. Specifically, it focused on kind of the use of zakat, or like a specific type of funding, but I want to take it slightly broader to hear from you a bit more about what type of kind of organizations, or what type of, if you want, what type of organizations that already have established communities in the diaspora have you engaged with? Because some of them, for example, are religious organizations, or that try to bring us to the community together. Other are, you know, nonprofits around a specific topic. So if you can give a few examples of the types of partners you've worked with in different countries abroad, and if any of you have had specifically any experience with the use of zakat, which was the main question, please do share that too. Are you going to make me go to somebody specific? Okay, well, I saw your lips moving. Oh, Yumna, go ahead.
Yeah, we didn't use zakat, but I can talk about tapping into existing communities abroad.
Yeah.
So I think then for us, our social media channels were the first point for people knowing about us. But then we learned. I was in the US, so we directly worked with the Lebanese Collegiate Network over there, which is a coalition of Lebanese students in all the American universities. In New York, it's a small circle, so I guess once you know SEAL, then you know everyone that you need to know. Same for Life in London and Europe. So I think those groups are small and easy to tap into. And then there are more unknown communities that we work with, like the Maronites Association in the US, for example. They are religious groups, but they do a lot of humanitarian work. And usually for us, going to conferences, being invited at the Lebanese consulates and embassies, were how we got connected with those groups and how they reached out to us.
Thank you, Yumna. Awesome. Anybody else wants to speak to that point? No pressure if not. Okay. At this point, we are past our Q&A time. I think I hit upon all the main questions, maybe not exactly as they were asked. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Not exactly as they were asked, but hopefully we were able to answer most of the things you brought up. But if not, as we will point to at the end of this session, we are definitely open to more questions and more conversations. So if there's anything else you needed to know from either us or the speakers themselves, please do email us and we will make sure to answer your question or connect you to specific speakers. Do not leave because I know some of you, it's already an hour. If you still have some time left, we would love to do at least a brief brainstorming with everybody here, both speakers and attendees, on two main questions. Maybe you can, Miriam, I know you're controlling this, just go through the questions quickly so people have an idea. Maybe we get them interested to stay. Can you click on one more? So the first one is going to be just kind of a quick ideation brainstorming, list as many ways as you can think of for how the Lebanese diaspora can support initiatives in Lebanon. And this kind of hits upon some of those things: fundraising, awareness raising, like corporate partnerships, like what are other ways that we can work together? And then the second one, very quickly, Miriam, please. How can we continue this conversation and work together? So this one is more focused on what are actions or events that we as kind of groups and people here can take for us to coordinate better on mobilizing support. So is it more events like the ones we just did? Is it other types of kind of spaces for networking and conversations? So if you're able to stay for these, you see in the chat, there's a link for dot storming. If you click on it, this wall essentially is going to open. Miriam, can you demonstrate adding your name to it? It should be pretty simple. You add your name, hit join, and then if you double click in the middle of the white space, a sticky note will pop up. If you add your name, yeah, question one, Miriam, yeah. So you get the idea. You're able to change colors, add what your sponsor idea is, and just add it to the board. So I see that a few people started going into it. So I'll just give you a minute for those who can stay for the next 15 to 20 minutes, I would say. We'll try to keep it as short as possible to go in. And then thank you, Miriam. So this is the first question. I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock. Well, 4 minutes. Let's start with that. On the clock for you to list as many ways as you can think of for how the Lebanese diaspora can support. If you aren't able to access dot storming for whatever reason, just add them to the chat, your ideas to the chat, and we'll make sure to move them. A final thing, especially if you're proposing an idea you would like us to follow up on, please make sure you add your name to that sticky note so we're able to reach you after. Hopefully this is clear, but I know I speak way too fast sometimes, so let me know if you have questions. But 4 minutes on the clock, and let us know if you face issues getting to dot storming.
So just if you can keep the first question in yellow so we can track them, and the second one in green would help.
Thank you, Miriam. Amazing. And no worries, if you already did them in a different color, it's fine. We'll figure it out. A minute and a half remaining, just to let you know. Miriam, can you go back to the first question? But it's fine if you started answering that one too. It all feeds into one goal. Okay, at this point, if you have any final thoughts on the first question, please add them. We already have quite a few great ideas in there. Great. If we can move Miriam to the second question. I'm going to put another 4 minutes on the clock. So this one is, again, a bit more focused on what we can be doing, specific actions, specific ideas for how we can coordinate, share information, so forth. both for us as like impact and LDA and how can we facilitate this, but also it could be, you know, initiatives among different groups or individuals. It doesn't have to involve us. So anything you can think of, add it in green if possible. A minute and a half remaining. Okay, so the 4 minutes are up. If Miriam, could you share the board just so we are all looking at the same thing? Perfect. So I tried to cluster them. Some went more successfully than others, but we will get to work with these a bit more before. But some of the themes that came up, it seems, exporting, kind of the export market, opening up access to markets abroad and kind of exporting products abroad was something that came up a few times. Partnership and working together, building networks, communicating, coordinating, and kind of specific ways we can capitalize on existing resources or networks came up in a few different ways. So I think we're going to have to dive a bit deeper into that. There were some interesting ideas about kind of like beyond fundraising, whether it's auctioning material out, donating products or like in-kind services, but also billable services, and the profits would go back to people who are trying to help. So a few ideas about different types of methods that we can get support that aren't necessarily kind of straightforward, give money. There's also a few ideas about types of fundraisers that we could run, whether they're micro fundraisers in very specific locations or kind of a united joint fundraising effort. So what I'm gonna do now in the next few minutes, if you have any other ideas, you can continue adding them to the board. Actually, this board is gonna be open for a while yet, so feel free to add anything to it. I'm conscious that we have only 8 minutes remaining, so maybe I can very quickly give the space for our speakers. If you have any kind of final remarks or ideas you wanted to bring up before I wrap up with a few next steps. So let me go by the order that you were speaking. So maybe Nisreen, if you have any final thoughts you'd like to share, please go ahead.
Okay. As I probably, I'm not sure if you read my message in the chat box, but I will say it out loud now. It could be an idea, a good idea to help the diaspora, as I noticed some people raised the issue of trusting the NGOs, and there's a question mark because especially these days, the diaspora would expect receiving a lot of requests from different NGOs in Lebanon, especially in the deteriorating economic situation that we are facing. So there's a load on the NGOs and what the NGOs would probably provide to the community. So there's something needed to help the diaspora choose. And as an idea, it could be probably having a special portal by credible institutions in order to put along the filtered NGOs. And in this way, after probably passing through a system of identifying the eligibility, this will help the diaspora identify the NGOs that they want to support within the causes that they are interested probably in. And in this way, they will be assured that they are reaching out to credible NGOs.
Thank you, and we'll make sure we move that idea, I saw it in the chat, to the board too, to make sure it makes it there. Awesome. Walid? If you're trying to speak, you're still on mute. Let me try to find you.
On mute.
Oh, here you go.
Sorry for that. I think Nisreen has a good point. Any kind of assurances with regards to governance, compliance, etc., is going to be welcome by everyone. I also feel that there should be some overwhelming themes, like high-level themes that the diaspora should itself organize around, and most definitely an internet platform would be a very efficient way to if you want, act as a catalyst to avoid duplications. You know, we are at a stage where everyone wants to help, and we need to avoid duplications, meaning people throwing way too much efforts on one area, or whether it's geographic or on one subject. And in absence of government, behaving as they should in terms of being the umbrella, maybe we can take that in our hands and create an efficient, similar to the e-government idea, maybe to an e-NGO sort of platform that aims to combine effort and aggregate and dispatch efforts in a coordinated manner. It's still a very vague idea, but I think there is some leg to it.
Yeah, and I do want, we won't be able to get into it right now, but the idea of kind of trying to prioritize specific areas or sectors that maybe have the highest level of need that aren't, let's say, being covered by governmental or non-governmental organizations in Lebanon right now for the diaspora to support, like the idea of trying to see if there are specific focus areas that make sense based on either need or kind of value added, if the diaspora can have specific things to bring that people in Lebanon maybe don't. That's an interesting question to look at. And I've added that to the board, and we're definitely going to add the idea of kind of this platform for either fundraising or exchange of information or somewhere to better coordinate activities. Maya, I'm going to take it to you now. Still muted. Okay, we might have lost Maya, unfortunately. Okay, Yumna, I'll move to you while I try to look to Maya. Oh, Maya, I see you.
Yes, sorry, I lost the mute. So there's one point that's very important that we have to talk about with regards to the annual donations for charities like the zakat and the Christmas periods. This is the only thing I really need to talk about. These are the two areas, the two periods during which we collect 90% of our donations. So I think the diaspora has maybe to also help us during these two periods, instead of spreading our time throughout the entire year trying to work on fundraisers and events. Maybe we can concentrate throughout the year on working on two main fundraising events, which is the annual Muslim feast of the Fitr and the Christmas holidays. So these are the two most important points that I wanted to talk about. We've had some good experiences with auctions and with singers and stuff, but it's nothing compared to the Christmas and Fitr areas periods.
Those are great. I've added all of these points actually to the board, so that was really helpful.
Well, so you mean there's no point bothering with the rest of the year other than these specific festivities and job done?
It's not having to bother, no, of course not. But the impact is, I mean, if you wanna work properly and really be very impactful, I think you need to prepare the entire year for two major events, one in Christmas and one in Fitr, because honestly, it's 90% of our income. I'm talking just about us because we deal with food, and this is
yeah, because of course, people donate a sheep or something or a cow. So of course that makes sense. You can give the food and give the donations that way around. What about, I guess, Easter and is that it? I guess is it just two main events of Lebanon?
It's not two main events. It's two main periods during which you have a multitude of events. Yes. For example, last Christmas we participated in 19 fairs, Christmas fairs. Wow. And during these 19 fairs, we were able to collect, I think it was 45% of our total budget. And during Adha, we did this. During Fitr, we did the same thing.
Sorry,
oh, really? Wow.
I'm going to have to, unfortunately, cut this conversation off, but it is something we definitely should look into more, like lessons about which specific times it makes sense for us to focus some of the fundraising. I do want to give the space for Yumna to speak and then just quickly wrap up for 30 seconds.
So was it this Maya that was answering my question earlier about the Eid stuff? Cool.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I just wanted to figure out who it was so I can maybe come back to you.
I don't have much to add, so I'll be quick. I think all those ideas are great. For us, we'll really be focusing on micro fundraising throughout the month, like weekly small fundraising for small initiatives. But all those ideas are exciting, and if we can be of any help to anyone, please reach out to me, and would be happy to collaborate.
And that's a great way to get us to the final couple of slides. Miriam, if you can move to them. Basically, we're going to send out an email as soon as we can with some of the main ideas that came out, also some additional information on the organizations and the contact, so that if you would like to continue this conversation, whether with us as Impact and LDA or with any of the specific speakers, you would be able to do that. We would ask you though, if you didn't, those of you who registered, your email should be with us, but if you are not sure, if your email is there but would still like to be part of this conversation moving forward, please make sure you send your email to us. And you see in both the chat and on the screen some of the ways to reach us through email and through Slack. Is there anything else, Miriam, that I've forgotten that we want to wrap up with?
That's pretty much it. I posted some of the links where you can reach us in the chat. So if anyone is interested in collaborating and we can work together into more broadly coming up with a better strategy for the diaspora, that would be great.
Perfect. Thank you so much for all our speakers, everybody who's here who gave time and your ideas, shared them with us, and for you, Miriam, for helping pull this all together. This is it for this one, but hopefully we will have follow-up events or conversations in the coming period. So please stay tuned, I guess, for those. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Excellent session. Thank you. Bye.
Lindara? I can't hear you. Wait.
It removed the live from Facebook, I think.